that's this model with these different roles of patrons and service providers. I probably won't go into detail right here, but that is going to be one of the methods that staking will be able to be applied. But today, another one was announced, and I imagine many more will be announced in the coming years. So I don't know, Walter, do you want to talk a little bit about what was announced today and how you're kind of looking at different staking mechanisms on the roadmap?
Definitely. Yeah. So if you, so basically, in a nutshell, if you look at how we see the value of a token, it's a utility token, and an obvious utility is paying for the blockchain fees as we do today on the Energy Web chain, and that's of course a boring one. I think the next one is all around value transfer, and that's already happening a lot. The foundation actually does accept payment in Energy Web tokens, and there's of course a lot of people that are now also using the token for that. And then the first one is indeed that Jesse said, the utility layer staking. That's another utility of a token where actually we use it as an escrow, basically saying, hey, if you want to be trusted in this utility layer providing services, well then put some money at stake, and that's the escrow service. The next one we're actually announced today is with NG Mobisol. And that's, I think, a seriously cool one, if I'm honest. And that's where we actually say we're going to stake Energy Web tokens in or almost like a crowdfunding exercise where we then use these tokens as collateral to then fund loans in Africa. Those are real loans. That's business that's already operating today. So actually, that fund will then be operating as an external loan provider to people in Africa. They then buy these energy assets, which is typically a small piece of solar that they put on their roof, a battery, and then they can connect their fridge to it, or lightning, or charge their mobile phone or a laptop. And it's probably between, I would say, a couple of $100 to, let's say, $1,000. So really micro loans. And the people in Africa, they pay that back through mobile money, through M-Pesa as an example of that, or MTN money. It's 50 cents a day. It's sometimes $2 in a week, etc., etc. So all these small payments come back. A typical loan is 2 years, and then also there's a return on the loan, because Stefan, who leads this at Mobisol, is very adamant that it should not be a gift. It should be really a business on itself. So that's an example of where basically the returns you're getting on your staked Energy Web tokens are actually coming from real returns from people paying off their loans. Obviously, what we will make sure is that the amount they pay with our staking model will be less than what they pay today. And we're not going to launch this model to increase the cost of the people. Well, actually, we can already see from the models that by taking this approach, you actually lower the cost. But and then lastly, what we're also going to experiment with, and we already launched something on Volta for that, is using Energy Web tokens as collateral for a stable coin. So things like MakerDAO or Liquidity on mainnet Ethereum are good examples there. And so we're really going to open up that whole space and see how we can give more utility there to our token.
Amazing, Walter.
I think Bart also, like, just on the way to think about labs, I think for the community is the labs is really going to give us the room to focus on bringing and even pushing crypto innovation. And these are really good examples of ways that we can build kind of new applications that leverage staking, that leverage other DeFi concepts, and bring them onto the Energy Web stack.
Just to add to that, so all these use cases are real. So there's real cash flows going on. So it's not staking and then hoping that more people get in and then the value goes up. It's real cash flows, whether it's service provider providing service at the utility layer, making money there, it's repaying of loans, etc., etc., etc. So that's I think quite unique. That differentiates us again.
Yeah, that's amazing, and it's also an answer to the many times the community has asked what we could do to actually make them doing something with Energy Web tokens so that it has utility, that they actually can do something with these tokens besides holding it, of course. So that's really, really amazing news, Walter and Jesse. Okay, please allow me to go to the next question, but Daniel, can you ask it?
Yeah, sure. The next question was, will the Energy Web Foundation directly help Bitcoin or even all crypto to get 100% renewable in a blockchain verified way?
Certainly our ambition. Yep. I was just off the line with one of the world's biggest crypto exchanges talking about exactly this. The Crypto Climate Accord is our vehicle to do this. We've got a lot of supporters and signatories under the Crypto Climate Accord that really range the spectrum. I also just found out that we had a bit of an IT issue and we weren't getting all of the inbounds of companies that want to join. So the number of logos under the CCA is about to double or triple. Yeah. So, I mean, the short answer to that, Daniel, is yes. We put out some specifics about exactly how we want to do that, right? So just the other day, we put out a piece about the green hash rate solution, which is an application that runs on the Energy Web stack that uses DIDs and Switchboard to help Bitcoin mining pools prove that they're green. So that's one of the solutions we'll be building to help achieve this outcome of making crypto 100% renewable. On the other side, basically, I know we got a lot of Energy Web people on here. We're using this combination of Zero and Origin to really easily enable crypto market participants, whether you're a Bitcoin holder, a wallet, an exchange, to go and purchase renewables to help make crypto green. I mean, at the highest level, those are the kinds of activities that we're structuring underneath the Crypto Climate Accord.
Yeah, just to add to that, so I was on a call yesterday with our friends from El Salvador. We also have some members there. And of course, they also are giving the news that El Salvador makes Bitcoin legal tender. They now have to implement it over the coming 90 days, and they want to be extremely attractive to miners because they have volcanoes that also provide power to mine. And that's also the discussions we're having there, is actually saying, okay, we're going to make the green hash rate, our open source AnyWeb solution, including Zero, a requirement for new miners to join and combine there, and they're very open for those discussions. So, but it's not just Bitcoin; it's any blockchain. But of course, the main focus is on Bitcoin.
Yeah, so that's good news that you are focusing on all crypto, but the main focus is Bitcoin, of course. But it's good news that we're focusing on the whole crypto scene.
Definitely.
Yeah, Bart, do you want to do the next question?
Sure. An interesting one as well. So what we've seen lately is that, a lot of developers are like starting to build stuff on Energy Web. We have this launch of Carbon Swap, which was a great example of how DeFi could actually come to Energy Web blockchain and actually work. So the question here is, what kind of incentives is Energy Web planning to do to encourage more developers to come to this ecosystem and build stuff and maybe even port existing applications to the Energy Web blockchain? And the community member that asked this, he mentioned platforms like Curve and Aave and so on. So yeah.
Yeah, and I also saw another question, Bart, to kind of lump them all together is, you look at like Binance Smart Chain and all these other blockchains promoting cheap gas fees, and the Energy Web chain is clearly pretty cheap too. So yeah, just to mash together a couple of questions we've got on that. Sorry, Walter, go for it.
No, what I want to say, that will be one of the key focus points of the lab, because what the Carbon Swap made very clear to us. And of course, we already knew it. We're a great platform, but we've been so busy focusing on, getting all these large enterprises to start to roll out our infrastructure, and that's also why we said we really need to now go and strategically focus on the next wave of innovation, because what we're doing in the energy sector is truly, truly groundbreaking, and we got that confirmed again last week from somebody who newly joined. But nevertheless, we are dealing there with very large enterprises, and that takes a lot of effort and a lot of heavy lifting to be building. And what we don't want to be is 3 years from now that we have implemented all these brilliant new applications on Energy Web does with the energy sector, but then are actually no longer the innovative party that we are now. So that's why we said we launched the labs, and we are going to focus completely on positioning the Energy Web chain and also the wider Energy Web DOS to all kinds of applications that are now struggling on mainnet Ethereum or on Binance chain or whatever chain, any private chain, and be very, very supportive to pour them to our chain. So that's definitely a key focus of the lab. So then we can simulate many ways we can, of course, when people operate their application on the chain, it's very cheap, but we can also grant stuff if it's really innovative or help develop it. But yeah, we're definitely going to focus on that. Not just but also moving outside of the energy sector into other sectors. So
Okay. So anyone with a great idea can come to Lab and just build
definitely.
stuff.
Definitely, yeah. We'll be pushing innovation itself. We'll be anybody with a great idea. We love to incubate these great ideas. We, as you can imagine, have great access to all kind of networks, whether it's enterprises, regulators, or exchanges. We can accelerate existing initiatives that are struggling on other chains. So yeah, we're open for business.
So that's awesome to hear. That's awesome to hear. Another question that we got a lot was, how about Energy Web Chain getting a connection to, for example, the Polkadot network or the Kusama network to get full cross-chain support? Have we already think about that?
We've definitely got bridges galore. We were one of the first companies that even built. Walter, didn't we build a bridge to the Libra network that never really came to be? Yeah.
2 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we kind of follow our community. If there are some use cases or applications that are looking to leverage Polkadot, Kusama, or other networks, yeah, we want to hear about it. So it's more of a where does the community want to go? What's needed? How does it tie to our mission? Those are the kinds of things we're looking for, and then we build it. That's just how we work.
Okay, so that's awesome news for our community, because this was one of the questions that we got a lot. So that's good news. Let's see the next one.
Yeah, I can take the next one. Is the team and the foundation talking to governments, like in Germany, they're talking to DINA about future regulations of the crypto market as a whole? Yeah, the community member asked the question. He says that he has the feeling that big companies like Shell are awaiting more regulations regarding crypto before they will really kick ass. What's your outlook?
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I think if we're looking at crypto as a whole, I think is where this question's coming from. And definitely under the Crypto Climate Accord, we are having conversations with regulators, actually a lot in the US. One of our partners in the Crypto Climate Accord is the Alliance for Innovative Regulation. And basically their organization, they're a cool nonprofit that just help regulators embrace digital, and in this case, embrace decentral tech. I have been on multiple conversations in the past couple of months with financial regulators that are thinking about banning Bitcoin. Really interesting conversations. Banning Bitcoin mining, I should say. And I think we're in those conversations because we're the experts, just trying to help regulators understand that whoa, let's not pre-regulate this sector. You really want to ban Bitcoin mining? Well, then let's ban everybody using their phones to watch TikTok, right? It's this whole conversation about crypto being picked on for its electricity and carbon footprint relative to other industries. So definitely having those conversations. It's a really interesting space to be in, and it's clear that the regulations are trying to catch up to the technology, and I think we're going to continue having that for a while.
Agree. And just today, actually, I spoke to a person who's quite a big guy, and he's going to talk to a lot of central banks end of the month or early next month, he mentioned. And they are really thinking through now, okay, what should we do with CBDC? Should we push it harder? How does Bitcoin, again, there came up again, play into this, et cetera, et cetera. And I think it's safe to say that CBDCs will be coming, and more regulation will be entering into the crypto space. But I think that's a good thing, because if you want to create impact with decentralized technology like we have in the real world, so the world you and I live in, that is a world, whether we like it or not, that has laws and rules, and those rules are typically made through democratic processes. So the more actually the regulators start to wake up and say, oops, what should we do? The more, for me, that's evidence that we're actually starting to become relevant and also start to create a real impact. And then again, we're very well positioned in Energy Web because we are being asked to advise them, and we're being seen actually as helping this whole transformation rather than battling against the challenges. And of course, Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining is much more political than what we do. But yeah, I can see also in Europe that regulators are really stepping up, which is completely different than 4 years ago.
So what's the vision of the project within 5 years? Can you zoom in on decarbonizing the crypto grid and the role of Energy Web in this whole story?
So if the question's more on, I don't know who from the community asked this one, if it's about crypto or if it's about the grid, I will answer it by mashing those two things together. So our vision for Energy Web is to make the energy systems around the world 100% renewable as quickly as possible. Within 5 years, here's what I would expect, but Walter, you might have some different answers too. Look at the Google grant that we were awarded recently. Keep a keen eye out for 2 very significant project announcements in the next, let's call it, month to 45 days that look and feel very similar to what we're doing with DINA in Germany, that look and feel very similar to what we're doing with Elia and 50 Hertz in Belgium and Germany, and these other transmission system operators and distribution system operators. In the next 5 years, we want to have several enterprise-grade solutions for giving energy sector assets and identity live and running all around the world. That's our, kind of sounds boring to say it, that our vision is to help these utilities digitize their systems, but that's how we drive impact. Every single time one of these utilities comes onto our stack and sets up an architecture for clean energy assets to have an identity, we are driving impact because it means that those assets have much easier access to these energy markets. So that's our vision, is to get as many of those kinds of grid operators onto our stack as possible. The only thing I'd add is on the other side, we should talk about crypto. I hope, Walter, I don't know what you think about this. This is kind of a bold statement, but if we're still talking about the carbon footprint of crypto in 5 years, that's, I'll say we have failed. And when I say we, it's not just Energy Web, but the crypto industry has failed. This is a solvable problem. We have a globally distributed electric load. Renewables are cheap. We just have to help connect the dots between buyers, sellers, users in the crypto space. So 5 years from now, we shouldn't be talking about making crypto green anymore. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think I often said it. So if you compare where we are now with crypto in general, let's compare it to the internet. And I said it before, I'm an old guy, so it compares to 1995 or 1994, perhaps even. So yes, in those days, you could actually do emails. You would have a dial-up modem and go to a bulletin board. Google hadn't started, Amazon hadn't started, etc., etc. So I think what we will see, we're now building the internet for the energy sector, like Jesse's saying, all centered around decentralized identities, digital, of course, self-sovereign. So the consumer is in charge, not the platforms or not the big corporates. And I would say we will probably start to see the first real useful applications running on top of it, like AI modules that help you to optimize your spend on energy or whatever. So I think, it's definitely, crypto is there then, it's part of how the society operates. And I would hope with you, Jesse, that the whole discussion on green or black or brown is behind us. It's a nonsense discussion. We will have solved it by that time. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. And I think working together and just making alliance collaborations is the best way to actually push this forward. And that brings me to the next question, and it's been asked every AMA, are we having talks with Tesla and Elon Musk? If not, do you see yourself as competitors?
I think that's a question. That's a question for the new CEO, I think.
Yeah, I mean, look, whoever asked us that question, check out my tweets, check out Walter's tweets, look at what we're doing. Bart, I know there was another question about Volkswagen. Point one, no, Tesla is not a competitor to Energy Web. They should be a key partner. And just look at what we're doing with Volkswagen. With Volkswagen, we're now conducting an integration with their team so that we can give a decentralized identifier for every Volkswagen car and every Volkswagen owned controlled charging station around the world. If we can do that, then the moment a state, a province, a country says we're going Energy Web, bang. The idea is all of those identities are able to hook into our stack and participate in the market. That's our go-to-market. So no, none of these electric vehicle manufacturers like Tesla or DER companies that actually make these super cool low carbon pieces of technology, they're not competitors, they're collaborators, they're partners. And again, I think a really good example of that is what we're doing with Volkswagen. There's a press release about that. There'll be more to come there. But hopefully that's clear. And so, one of our strategic focuses at Energy Web is to try and get as many of those manufacturers pre-integrated with our stack as possible. For example, that's why you saw an announcement with a couple of these other OEMs that we're working with in Spain, electric vehicle charging infrastructure providers. So more to come.
Great news.
Yeah, and it's very important to see in these use cases that DIDs, decentralized identifiers, are really important and really key capability, right?
I mean, it's the core of our entire stack. I think, I didn't see this question anywhere on the recently, but I think I mentioned this on a previous AMA. We're going through a pretty significant exercise to be better about telling the Energy Web story to a broader audience, and that's going to be all about DIDs. Really putting identity, self-sovereign identity for the energy sector at the center of our story. It's a mission critical to every single application we build.
Great. No, it's crucial, and it's fundamentally different, but it's the best use case of blockchain when it comes to physical assets. Is actually to give these assets a private key and let them expose themselves through a public key. So let them really be self-sovereign. You come to completely different architectures, and that's what we're seeing now. And that will also roll into payments. The current banks, the real dollars, the paper money is in the current world. In the internet world, you basically saw PayPal and Agenda, those type of more centralized payment processes. But in this decentralized world, assets that have an identity that can be trusted, they will all go and settle this themselves. So there will be a lot of that integration there too. And that's why this DeFi layer on top of our chain is also so relevant now.
So Walter, the next question is also for you. We have some community members that are living or based in the Netherlands, and they want to have a beer and talk about the future of Energy Web. What do you think? Are you open for something like this?
As long as they are paying, I'm definitely open for that. No, I'm kidding. I will be paying too. No, definitely. I love to meet the folks. I think it's possible again. We're now going to relax the measures, the COVID measures a lot in our country. So yeah, it's a deal. Let's do it.
Yeah, and we reached more than 100 listeners, so we should definitely do it, and it should definitely be Belgian beer, I think.
Definitely, but definitely, it's much better. Yeah.
Okay. Another one is about the Volta testnet. So recently, this Volta testnet has been booming in activity. How far are we from actually getting something really industrialized here? And like having a scale in DIDs on the mainnet. In what countries do you think such a deployment will happen?
So there's already DIDs being used on the mainnet. The trick is, given the nature of these things, it's impossible to tell what they are, where they are, what they're doing. That said, I coming in as CEO, I just had a conversation with our CTO, Misha. I would really like to see, and if anyone in the community has ideas here, really like to see some sort of a DID monitoring tool, and not for like any governance reasons, but just for impact. If there's some way we could, track all the DIDs being used on the Energy Web stack and get some more data about that, I think it'd be really interesting. So that's one thing we're looking at on the infrastructure kind of monitoring side. I really like the other part of this question though, Bart. What countries do we think like large scale deployments will happen? I'm really closely watching California in the US. I'm really closely watching Australia. in our ecosystem. And then also just look at this action that's going on in Western Europe, whether we're talking about the Netherlands, whether we're talking about Spain, whether we're talking about Germany. Those are the countries I have my eye closest on as it relates to, large scale deployment of the Energy Web stack in the near future.
Yeah, for anybody who's listening from Australia, look at the recruitment channels, please.
Yes.
Amazing. Okay. Oh, many questions to go. There are many companies validating, but companies like Hitachi, Volkswagen, Google, and so on, they're not in the validator set. Are you guys working on setting this up? Maybe setting up a secure laptop for them or something?
Secure laptop. Yeah. Well, we started with 10 validators. 2 years ago. It's actually our anniversary today. Congratulations, all. But 2 years ago, we started with 10 validators, and we thought, oh my God, how are we ever going to get this to 15? And now we're at 44. And technically, I'm told that when we are around 150, we need to start thinking about a different architecture. So we will keep on pushing until we're at that number. And yeah, the names you mentioned, definitely we have discussions with a lot of them. And what we always say is you need to contribute in a meaningful way to our ecosystem. And then, of course, you're also eligible to become a validator. So typically when we do a good project with them, that's also the moment that they become a validator. But they're all open for it, definitely.
The two most laborious exercises that I've gone through in my tenure at Energy Web has been working with the crypto exchanges and helping Energy Web members set up validator nodes. These are big companies this is part of the benefit of proof of authority, actually, if you think about it. The fact that it takes so long for some of these companies to get such deep buy-in from their organizations that they're willing to run a node on public blockchain infrastructure is very powerful. This is why we have a secure network. One of these corporates, because of the number of approvals and everything you have to go through, can you ever envision them colluding with another corporate around on the other side of the planet? No. So yes, it's a pain to work through the process of getting these companies set up, but it's an extremely good pain, in my humble opinion, considering the benefit we get out of the system.
Totally. And that's also just to give a little bit of insight of the type of complexity that these large corporates face. So when you are a validator, apart from validating and building the blockchain, you obviously also get a reward. So you get, 0.3 or whatever, 0.25 Energy Web tokens per block. But how would you value that in your bookkeeping? When do you pay taxes on it? Do you get it for free? Do you get it for market? And then across 21 countries. Yeah? So it's so true what Jesse says. So when you actually see these validators publicly saying they're a validator, it's not the person in that company that thought it's a great idea. It's actually the brand of that company, the legal department, the compliance, etc., the CFO, the COO, the IT guys. They're all saying, yes, we want this. So it's a big thing. It's a really big thing.
Yeah, I can imagine. And another big thing would be like the when tier 1 question. Can you elaborate maybe on that one? It's like the number one question of all times, because we're really sometimes suffering from low volume, and it's been sometimes really painful to see Energy Web going the opposite direction of the market. So
the number one question: will Energy Web be soon on new exchanges? And why do we have trouble getting listed?
When tier 1, I first thought it was somebody from Asia, but now let me be very transparent with these exchanges. I've said it before, but Jesse, feel free to follow my rant. If there's one really, really, really big design flaw in crypto overall, then it's the concept of centralized exchanges. It's first of all, it's not to the merit of the crypto community, because we want to decentralize it, but we all know that decentralized exchange is not for the new joiners. So it's not intuitive. So I've experienced myself too, and I'm extremely pleased that now Jesse is going to experience that directly himself too. But of course, we were always in this together. It's very, very difficult to get to an agreement with a centralized exchange. Like I've said in the previous YouTube that Jesse and I did, we're papered up with a couple of them already. Everything has been settled, what needed to be settled from a paper perspective. And we're just sitting on our hands waiting. And it's very annoying because, as you probably know, we are extremely action-oriented and we are extremely impact-driven. And this is just something that is out of our control. And we escalate left, right, center, in the middle, on the Saturday evenings. But so far, also, I'm very disappointed with the progress there. But yeah, we are where we are. We keep on pushing. Not sure, Jesse, if you want to add anything to it, but that's at least my view of it.
Let's just ground ourselves in reality. I think Coinbase Pro listed the Shiba Inu token that's been around for 2 months. They just listed DOT, and I think I first saw the white paper for DOT back in 2016, so that's 5 years. And we launched Energy Web. The chain went live in 2019. So I just offer that to say I'm completely with Walter. The power that these centralized exchange processes hold is really challenging to work with. And I can't express my frustration enough having been going at this with Walter. So not much to add beyond that.
Okay.
Rest assured, we're not giving up. We keep on pushing. So keep us honest.
Thank you guys for this really open answers. Okay, what other questions do we have, Daniel? We have to look at the time as well if we want to like experiment with the stage.
Yeah, let's show some hands. If there's people that show hands, let's get them in. Yeah.
So if you guys have questions, we have a button where you can.
Oh,
let me check.
Yeah, it's working. There's someone. We have Cave. I can invite him to speak. Let's test this. Welcome to the stage.
Hello.
Hi, Cave. Welcome to the stage. You're live.
Hey, Cave.
I have a couple of questions. I don't know how much time I have, but I asked actually one question in the Telegram group, which was, okay, with this climate, sorry, I forgot the exact name, Climate Accord or something like this.
Yep.
Yeah, so with that one, will the blockchain companies, let's say, like the miners that participate, will they be using the token as well? Or is it not really using the token?
No, so that's the idea. If you look at, I'll just go back to what I explained previously, Kevin. So if they're using the way we're structuring these applications is that they use these microservices on the Energy Web stack. So getting a DID, sending messages, using the Origin toolkit if they're using Zero. So yeah, just as if a company were to build some sort of a dApp on Ethereum, you'd use Ether to run those transactions. It'd be the same thing for anything running on the Energy Web stack.
They'll be basically onboarding. They'll be using Switchboard to onboard their mining kit and get an identity.
Yeah. So Kate, let's do one more question because we have more hands.
Yeah, sure. I only asked the second question, which I've also asked several times on the Telegram group, which is there is no information to us about like how much certificates, renewable energy certificates, RECs, are being issued on the Energy Web chain. And by the way, I include this, like I come from a very, very famous IT company, and there are several people in that IT company. Unfortunately, I cannot name it. They're all interested in your chain, but these are questions we all have, and we cannot find the answers. And I came to your Telegram and I asked them several times. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the answer. So are there RECs being like managed by the Energy Web chain at the moment, and how much is that? Is it like 1 REC, 2 REC? Like how much energy are we talking about?
There's 2 different kinds of certificate plays happening on mainnet right now. So the first are completely voluntary kinds of certificates. So this is, if you look at companies like FlexaDAO, Teo from Anji, I'm kind of speaking on behalf of other companies building on the Energy Web stack. They are using different combinations of fungible and non-fungible tokens to trade certificates amongst a lot of different companies. Of course, we don't have information on how many they're trading. That's proprietary business information, and nor would we publish it if we did have it. That would be a major GDPR violation. So the whole point of the stack is to enable companies to be able to track and trade these certificates on an anonymous basis. Now, that said, Kevin, we are working with a lot of these local market participants that are issuing IREX. It's not our call whether or not the total number of IREX being transacted across the Energy Web chain could be published. That has to be a decision made by the buyers and sellers of those IREX. So all I can say now is, yes, these things are changing hands. Yes, it's happening on the Energy Web stack. It's more than one. But again, given the nature of these business transactions, there's no like real live tracking tool, these kinds of things.
Great. Thanks for the answers. Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good work.
Thank you.
So we have the next one, Jay Free. Yes, there he is. Your mic is on mute. Yep.
Hey, thanks for having me up. Great chat.
Sure. You're welcome.
One thing I wanted to ask about, I work in the solar industry locally, and as a developer, I used to build them too. So one thing about Energy Web Token, I'm really excited about the decentralization of it and the ability to reach out to every DER and give it an ID. But it's similar to that last question. It's hard to take the SRECs that people are generating. Like clients I work with have lots of megawatts of SREC that aren't contracted. But I don't know how to get them into a marketplace through Energy Web. I know it's built for that. So I'd like to do that. I don't know how.
Well, that's a great use case, actually, if I understand you correctly.
I agree.
Yeah. We've got a whole installation process. So if you guys wanted to explore that.
Let's talk.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's Just send us your detail, or I don't know how to do that, but
I have it. I have his detail. I will send him over to you.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah, we'll set up a meeting. Definitely cool. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, that's part of my excitement for the lab. So I wanted to ask that because I saw that and I was like, well, maybe this is that area.
Yeah, I mean, just to connect the dots, what the kind of environment we're trying to create with Zero is, okay, if you've got a bunch of leftover SRECs from this regulated market in Northeast US, why can't we make those available to the crypto community, for example? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Again,
yes.
just off the phone with like these huge institutionals looking to buy certificates to make their Bitcoin green. This is exactly what we need to populate Zero with. So that's a great connection.
Right, and this is also, just to comment on that, this is exactly also what we are discussing with Engie for phase 2, because there's, 10, 20, 30, 40 megawatt of solar in Africa in these small households, but we can also start creating RECs for that too. So it's a very good use case, definitely.
Cool. Well, thanks for that.
Thank you. Let's go to Mastercat.
Mastercat, yep, sure.
Welcome on stage.
Mastercat, you are live?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Loud and clear.
Awesome. Thank you. I had a question specifically about the lab. For those of us who are currently involved in projects which, as individuals or as businesses, that may be, let's say, relevant to the work that you're trying to do with the lab specifically. How can we as individuals or enterprises become involved in those projects? For example, I run with my father multiple businesses in Sierra Leone in West Africa, and many times we've had conversations about microgrids, solar microgrids in our families' villages and such. That this would be, a project that we wanted to pursue. And literally, I sent an email to the lab, and then the next day the announcement was released about the Mobisol project. So I was very, very encouraged to see that. So how would people like ourselves become perhaps involved in these kinds of projects?
Yeah, that's a great question. This is exactly why we have that. I actually saw your email. I think you sent it to Doug, or somebody. I think it was Doug Miller who picked up the question. No, this is so we have the boring answer. We have an email address there, lab@energyweb.org, but we already have your email. So, but this is definitely what we want to do. So we want to not only push projects because our conclusion was we need much more innovation. Other Energy Web does. So we're going to push stuff ourselves, but we also want to incubate these type of initiatives. So give us some time to get organized, but definitely, again, spot on. So if you have an ability or already locally to push this in Sierra Leone, then that's definitely something we can accommodate.
And Daniel, I don't know, is there anything worth mentioning about the ambassador program? Because that might also be a easy way to connect the dots. What do you think?
Yeah, so soon we will launch an ambassadors program, and we can also talk about initiatives and things in there. So we will give everyone the opportunity to start something, and we will provide resources. Some more info on that soon, like really soon.
As in really, really, really soon. So watch the website. Yeah.
Like this week.
Yeah.
So we have 1 day left.
No, so
Awesome.
we're up for that. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, we already have your details, I think, because I saw the email this morning in Slack. So, but otherwise, drop it, and I will follow up on that.
Great. Yeah, you have my email, definitely.
Yeah, got it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So any more questions? Hi.
Hi,
Bless you.
did you hear me well?
Hello?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Hi guys, I would like to know, sorry if the question is a little dumb, I don't know too much about all this technology. How exactly
No worries.
will the network or the market, energy market work? I understand that energy flows through cables and physically, you know? So at a certain point of time, will all be interconnected with like physical equipment? How will it work exactly? Thank you.
Pretty big question.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's maybe think about it this way for kind of a newcomer to energy. There is no monolithic global energy market, especially if we're talking about electricity. Electricity grids, by their very nature, are regional. You know, we don't have a big transmission line going underwater yet between the US and Great Britain, for example. So all of these grids are regional. And the biggest kind of architectural thing that I would keep in mind is that those regional grids for the past 100 years have operated by having some humans sit in these large centralized dispatch centers who are, you know, people with the assistance of software turning up or down really big power plants. So big coal plants, big natural gas plants, hydroelectric plants. And basically they turn those plants up and down to make sure that the wires that run power to all of our homes and businesses don't melt, if I were to be blunt. What's changing is that all of these assets that you hear all of us on the Energy Web team talk about, whether it's solar, wind, rooftop solar, electric vehicles, batteries, Nest thermostats, all of these things that are naturally kind of distributed and decentralized because they're being bought by people all over the world, those are the things that we can actually now use to balance the grid instead of those big centralized power plants. So that's the big shift that's taking place right now. Hopefully you can kind of see where Energy Web sits in there. We're trying to position the Energy Web stack as the universal digital infrastructure for all those assets to basically talk to each other. It's kind of the simple way to think about it. And that's a cool model for us because then if California decides to jump on this new bandwagon, if Germany decides to do it, Australia, that's how you see these regional markets sort of changing the way that they operate and the way value changes hands. So I don't know if that helps. Pretty big question, but yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Great. I think that's it, guys. I don't see. I have one more question. Johnny Doe.
Yeah, he's in. Hey, Johnny.
Hi, Johnny. No, Johnny Doe's mic is not working. Nope.
Next time.
Bye, Johnny.
Andrew?
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Ah, sweet. I'm actually from Australia, and I
All
can
right.
yeah I can sort of tell you that our politicians bent over backwards with a over by coal corporations and a lot. So like our prime minister just a few years ago said coal is good for the future. No shit. And so I suppose, have you guys encountered much of that sort of old hegemony? And or do you think it's just going to fall by the wayside, or are you countering it in some way? What's your ideas on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly out there, and I live in the States, right? So we had a similar experience the past 4 years. Yep. So I know exactly what you're talking about. I think most of the energy companies we're working with, they don't need the regulations to shift for us to create value for them now. These assets I just talked about in the last question are coming online no matter what the regulations are because the economics are there. And so we're kind of solving a problem that has to be solved at one point or another all around the world, regardless of how long the federal, in the example you're giving, regulations take. So like, look, would it be great if the Australian federal government said, yo, we're going 100% renewables for the whole country? Yes, we would be able to move faster. But if they don't do that, and again, keep your eye on what we're going to be announcing soon in your backyard, no, we can make a lot of progress even with federal decision makers being a bit slow.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Okay, guys, I think that's it. Jesse, thank you. Walter, thank you. Everyone, thank you for being in here. What do you guys think? Do you guys like it? Jesse and Walter?
I like the audience questions. So we should do
Yeah, very good
yeah, that's
question.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Mhm.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think it's a great format, and I like the interactive part definitely. So, and very good questions too. So awesome. Yep. And thanks for hosting it, Kuba and Daniel.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Yes, thank you for being here.
Thank you for kicking off the first Energy Web stage.
First episode. Great, guys.
Nice. All right. Okay.
We also record this, so we will also put this on YouTube with subtitles. And
there's
we'll see
also
you-
a way in Discord we can like stream like kind of a radio thing. So we might stream this again a few times.
Yeah, so we will experiment a lot with Discord. We will stream things again, and let's see each other at the next stage. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Have a great day.
Bye bye.
Okay,
Thank
bye.
you all.